Ladies and gentlemen, we have our newest ranged marauder, Drongo.
Let's get metal!
So, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you guys enjoyed his announcement video. Really good. It gives you a good glimpse into his personality and kind of what Drongo is all about. So, ladies and gentlemen, just like I said, he is a newest ranged marauder here, and he's looking pretty badass. So, he's a zoning ranged marauder, which I find interesting because we don't really have, well, Twin Blast is probably the biggest zoning marauder we have so far. With his grenades, with his good poke, he's kind of the only one that really kind of can zone people out necessarily, because they don't want to get hit by his grenades. What does Drongo have to offer then in return? Well, he's a master of the scrapyard, has a tool for every situation. Though living in the chem wastes of Omega has affected his mind, it has only made him more fearless and given him a keen sense for blowing things up. Again, that is kind of his personality. Now, his first ability here is Rad Rounds. It's R&B or R1. Load Drongo's revolver with uranium tipped bullets. Landing attacks applies stacking radiation, which deals burst damage after a delay. Essentially, it just buffs your basic attack. I think it's like 4 rounds or something that you're able to hit somebody, and if you hit, the more you hit with those buffed attacks, the more radiation you stack on them, and then after a delay, you know, whether you're missing and you just can't apply more stacks, or you've applied all of the buffed basic attacks, basically it just blows up. The radiation blows up, and there's a big burst damage. So there is going to be a little bit of burst consideration. Do you go with Death Crawler, some heavy hitter, kind of those big damage power heavy cards, or do you kind of go for more DPS sort of thing? Now, Old Rusty is his Q and square ability. Drongo throws his trusty boomerang, dealing damage and slowing enemies hit. The only other person that has slow is Yin's ultimate, Serath's RMB. We have Grim, obviously, with his empowered slow there. This is going to be a good one, because it not only does it deal damage on the way out and when it returns to him, it'd be interesting if it also slows on the way back. It says slowing enemies hit. Well, if they're hit both on the way in and out with the boomerang, do they apply the slow? So that's really cool. There is potential in close quarters, which I think Drongo's going to do really well with. I think in close quarters, that boomerang, it's going to be interesting. And the next one is Gay Grenade, and this is why I say in close quarters, as well as his ultimate, he's going to work well. E-Circle ability is his grenade. Throw a tear gas grenade to a target location, and upon exploding, it creates a silence field. The second ability here in Paragon that has silence besides Richter's slash, his Q. Enemies will not be able to use abilities when inside the gas. So again, in close quarters on those objectives, team fights, you can throw that out and boom, all of a sudden Countess can't do absolutely anything. Any caster, anybody that's ability heavy, like Richter, people that just use ability, you can't use abilities. It's pretty simple as that. It can be a zoning tool as well. It can throw it into a tower, into an inhibitor, and people have to be like, can't stand in there. So if you throw it in the midway, you have to stand, too far away, or they stand too close. It's a really good ability here for enclosed locations or just sieging. Which probably goes with his sieging and zoner traits here. The next one is Shrapnel Cannon. It's his ultimate triangle ability. Drongo unleashes his cannon full of shrapnel, dealing a huge burst in front of him, which shreds armor and knock back close enemies. The blast is so powerful that Drongo himself is knocked back by the ability, as I'm sure you've seen in the video. Hey, pretty darn cool. It's going to work really well against today's meta. Kalari, boom, you just turn right to them, shrapnel cannon, boom, there, she's hit away, you go flying. Right as Countess Shadow slips on you, shrapnel cannon, boom, she goes away, you go flying back. Amazing gas grenade right on yourself so that she can't do absolutely anything. Gonna absolutely love Drongo here for today's meta. And if you can just land your basic attacks, hey, rad rounds works really well. Old Rusty to slow down the Wukong. I really hope the meta is balanced out. It's just gonna go bye-bye meta. Maybe not just from Drongo himself, but with obviously balance changes as well. So we've kind of talked about what does he counter a little bit, what kind of gameplay implications, but what affinities work well. Obviously, Chaos is going to be just fantastic. I mean, in general, it's good, but the power heavy cards, like Deathcrawler, is probably going to actually be pretty darn good. As long as you can get Deathcrawler and a good amount of attack speed to kind of counteract that, the whole bursty nature of Drongo it's going to work. Yes, his rad rounds is over time. You have to land multiple basic attacks as they stack and deal burst damage. But again, if you can manage to get Deathcrawler with maybe the heavy hitter, maybe that will work well. But also, I just have power heavy. Power heavy is going to work really well. As soon as I think of power, I also think of knowledge. Power tap obviously works really well, or any of those fantastic caster cards. It just gives you power, and then just more power over time, and power when you purchase intellect, like those kind of things. Well, that's kind of a little bit weird. Like caster Drongo may be a thing because he's so burst heavy, because all three of his abilities here are probably, well, they are going to really scale well with power. And being the bursty, you just need that power, not necessarily the basic damage, even though he's still a marauder. So the balance here is going to be really interesting. Twin Blast used to be very bursty with a ton of power. You just put him just a ton of power, and then you go grenades into the rapid fire and a basic cancel, and it just did crazy burst damage. Not necessarily anymore. So it's kind of like it has the power heavy burst carry kind of gone to the wayside with Drongo. I don't know. I'm thinking that again, Deathcrawler, I feel like he has a really good burst combo. You can throw out your old Rusty, you can boom, Deathcrawler right off the bat with old Rusty to slow them down. Gag grenade, put that down so they can't run. The Wukong can't just jump away for free with no repercussions, and they can boom, shrapnel cannon to finish them off. Something like that with the rad rounds in there to power your basic attacks. Something like that, very burst heavy. I think that works well. Crowd control is going to synergize very well with Drongo to keep people in place while you pump your enemies with rad rounds. Again, old Rusty, so you can really nail that once the crowd control has ended, with a gag grenade on top of that crowd control to even keep your enemies there fast for longer. It's going to work really well. So I'm actually really liking the idea of Drongo right now. It's just going to depend on what balance happens with 42.3. One interesting interplay is going to be if rad rounds applies to the outside projectiles of multi-shot. if you get the multi-shot gem, does the red rounds apply to the outside shots? If they do, I would love to see rad rounds with Vampiric Blade and multi-shot, and then you can, and then maybe you don't get Death Crawler. Just go for heavy assaults and other cards other than, you know, Death Crawler. It'd be really interesting if that does come into play. Oh boy, rad rounds with multi-shot, you know, with Vampiric Blade in a team fight. I mean, you can slow people, silence people, shoot people away. Like, the implications are really interesting. If rad rounds does apply on multi-shot, Vampiric Blade might be pretty darn sick. So that is it for me, really. I don't think there's anything more for Drongo. He looks really good. I'm really excited to play him. He counters the current meta really, I think, quite well. You compound Drongo with the crowd control needed to deal with Countess Wukong Kalari. I mean, you get a Richter that was really spot on with the hook or the silence. You can put Gag Grenade with Old Rusty to slow them down. Like, just that compounding nature, rad rounds going down range on the slowed, silent, stunned target. I'm really excited. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like his design? The scavenger skin is absolutely sick. I love his design. It really adds that wasteland Omega thing we got going on. We don't have too many heroes kind of from that, so I'm glad that we have some lore between Drongo, Iggy and Scorch, that sort of thing. So let me know, guys, down in the comments what you guys think. Please like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, share it with the community, guys. Of course, subscribe. If you guys like this content, especially if you found it useful, please subscribe so I can do it for you in the future. Please consider supporting me, what I do on a regular basis on my Patreon account. You guys make a monthly pledge to help me do what I love. Also, links down in the video description for my Amazon affiliate code. You simply help me out when you do your Amazon shopping. Doesn't cost you anything. Literally, you just help me out. So thank you guys very much for watching. Till next time, like always, guys, stay optimistic and positive.